Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, your guide to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Welcome to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by AMSOIL. I'm really excited because today we're bringing Jared Heshka of MBRP Powersports back on the show. This is actually his fourth time on the show, so I'm calling it Jared 4.0. But we get into topics that we've actually discussed in the past, but we got way deeper today, and that's brand loyalty and social media. So we talk a lot about that. Really good stuff. Before we get there, though, I have a few things I want to cover with you. One is AMSOIL. You have probably become familiar with AMSOIL, whether it's through the show or just somewhere else in the motorsports world. And without a doubt, you know that they produce motor oil, but there's so many other things that are out there that they produce, including gun lubricants. So there's a lot out there. I encourage you to head over to amsoil.com/rider, and I actually challenge you to find something on there that you don't think you could use. Like, there's just so much available. It's pretty awesome. So great partners. Check them out. Show them the love. And in terms of showing people love, too, we've got a number of other amazing supporters for the show. I'm going to cover those right now. SolderWeld, they produce game-changing metal bonding technology. TopToPodium.com, they're experts in motorsports sponsorship. Bold Racing, they're a family race team and GSP XCV axle specialist. Crash Addict Industries, they provide human protection and extreme racing products. I also want to shout out some of our other partners, MBRP, HMK USA, Studboy Traction, and GSP XTV. Last but not least, I want to mention our newest partner, High Octane Coffee. Joey Sylvester is the owner of High Octane Coffee. He's been on the show a couple times, and guess what? You're going to get to spend more time with Joey as a result of this partnership. So stay tuned for what that's going to look like. I promise you it is going to add value. Now, speaking of adding value, if you are enjoying the show and getting value out of it, please head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review. And then whatever podcast player you use, please subscribe so you don't miss upcoming episodes. That's it. I'm going to give up on trying to talk anymore with this crazy onset of another round of laryngitis, and I'm going to get into the show. Today we've got Jared Heshka 4.0. So Jared's the Powersports brand manager at MBRP. He's been on the show. This is going to be his fourth time now. But Jared, might as well give another quick intro. Remind people who you are.
All right, guys. Well, I'm Jared Heshka, like Josh said, the brand manager for MBRP Powersports. Obviously an enthusiast and everything myself, and also an ex-snowcross racer and everything. So really happy to share kind of my experience, not only in my role at MBRP, but also just the racing side of things as well. And my efforts in getting sponsorship and ultimately giving you guys value to help that aspect as well.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate the help. The first time you came on the show, we went through your whole background. That was episode 26. So that's going way back. When this one releases, this is going to be 145. So,
Ooh,
yeah,
wow.
There's been a couple. But, yeah, you also came on. It was somewhere in, like, the mid-60s with Tiffany Stone. And then you did a live show. Let's see, it was what? Was it the end of 2018 or... I don't know.
Yeah,
something like that.
I think it might have been, yeah. See, it might have been 8 weeks ago, but yeah, time's going by pretty quick. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So there's been a lot, though, even since you came on fairly recently for the live show. There's been a lot that you've been doing, and that's kind of what we're going to start with. We're going to catch up on a few things, specifically King of the Hammers. So let's hear about that. Tell us about the event and then what you learned, and we'll go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all right. Well, King of the Hammers, I don't know if you guys have heard of it. You guys probably know how it's probably one of the toughest races in North America. If you haven't heard of it, I would strongly suggest it is worth a couple minutes of your time to YouTube or Google. It's hard to even just paint the picture of it over podcasts or even just in a video. It's something you truly have to be there and experience. So MBRP has been a part of this as the official exhaust sponsor for a number of years, and we've also teamed up with Epic Racing. Lauren Healy, who's also a two-time King of the Hammers champion. So this year, Martin Barkey is the owner of MBRP. His son and I, Josh Barkey and myself, had the opportunity to co-drive, or I had the opportunity to co-drive with him in Epic Racing's car in the Ultra 4 class or the 4400 series class. So to give you kind of the full picture of it, we did 2 different practice sessions out there to kind of get a feel of the course, some obstacles that are well known like Chocolate Thunder and Backdoor, so just to get a feel for the course before going up there totally as green rookies anyway.
Yeah.
So the neat thing was, so we basically, as the newbie racers that we were actually they do a random pick for qualifying. So you go out to give you the whole list of racers, and everybody kind of goes that you set a time, and that predicts your spot for the race. So funny enough, we were the first car to start the qualifying course.
Nice.
So like, this should be interesting. Get a good feel for the course and everything, and then we can kind of call it a day and wait for our position for racing. The thing is that it rained actually a lot in the desert there, so it made the dirt on the short course pretty sticky. So we started out on the short course, and in turn 2, we actually rolled the car going into turn 2. So that happened pretty quick. There were several other cars that rolled in the race, so that kind of set us back, obviously. And we ended up starting position 100th out of 115, and obviously there was a couple of the cars that didn't qualify or had the same kind of an issue in the qualifying course, so they just kind of mix us up at the back. So basically they start the race 2 by 2, and every 30 seconds 2 cars get released. So basically from the front we had about a 50-minute disadvantage. But we kind of went in with the mindset of just being consistent, and this is a race of endurance. This isn't something you go into and you sprint. Being 242 miles of course total, it's something you definitely had to set a pace for. It's anything can happen out there for sure. So we got off the line, going 60%, just trying to take it really easy. Got into the desert, and the first lap really consists of about 90 miles. So it was crazy to see, we'd have a couple guys pass us at the very start, and you come up on a few guys that were rolled over or broken or flat tires already. And we're talking race mile 5 and 6, and then we'd pass a couple people and it build up a little bit of confidence, and we're making it, we're getting a few more steps in. So the first mile is relatively really tame. There's a couple little sections where you slow down and you go over some washes and stuff like that. So we make our way back into remote pit 1, which is the first stop for fuel, which is race mile about 71. And we noticed we got a leaky axle seal. So we top it up with fluid, get back in the main pit, and then kind of realize it's actually broken. So it's just king of the hammers, baby. You got to just keep pushing. So we started into lap 2, which was pretty much all rock, with 3-wheel drive, and actually hammered through all of lap 2 in 3-wheel drive. Wasn't easy by any means. I was out of the car most of the time winching, trying to find any obstacles that would, like rocks or something like that. We could wrap our winch cable to and pull through something you would easily drive through in 4-wheel drive. Right. But, so it was pretty gnarly. So we pushed our way through lap 2, eventually getting back into Hammertown. And then we left Backdoor was an option for lap, 1, 2, or 3. You can hit at any time. We left it for lap 3 because if the car was still going and in one piece, we'd tackle it. So we replaced our winch cable, and then topped up with some fuel and, set out to do that. I can definitely get the video up for you guys. It's pretty wild. It's you get up to Backdoor, and it's basically like a 7-foot 7-foot wall you have to climb up, and you have to winch up it. You cannot just drive up it. Even the most skilled drivers like Shannon Campbell or any Lauren Healy couldn't make it up without a winch. So yeah, it's definitely a big obstacle. So we ended up starting into lap 3, got up probably halfway on Resolution, which is just after Backdoor, and ended up breaking the winch cable again and had a few other rock. It was a little frustrating for sure, but at this point, we were about 12 hours into the race and tired. The car was tired, and without having winch cable, and we were basically kind of stood there and like, yeah, you know what, it's best to turn around. So surprisingly enough, where that put us in a position, we actually started 100th and ended up 50th overall. Wow. Even though we didn't officially finish, we were, I mean, for a couple of rookies in the race, I think we had, we were pretty happy and thankful for making it that far for sure. We had a great team behind us, and thanks, Jeremy and Epic Racing and MBRP and Nitto Raceline Wheels, all those guys that stood behind us for the race. We were very, very thankful for the opportunity to make it that far.
Yeah, it's so hard to describe these races to someone, especially if they have no experience at all with it. Some people are like, yeah, I off-road, so I know everything breaks constantly. But you talk to people who don't have any experience with that, it's just something else. So I haven't been to King of the Hammers, but I've been to Vegas to Reno twice now. And gosh, these vehicles, I mean, it's not like they just whip these things together. Like, these vehicles are purpose built with the best stuff. They don't put like Bob's axles on there, right? They put all good stuff on everywhere. And half the vehicles don't finish. It's just, that's just the nature of the beast. They just can't finish. It's so crazy. And when you do, like that, you jumped 50, 60 spots, and you didn't finish. And it's so crazy. It's hard to really explain that to anybody if you haven't experienced it.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. It's one of those things, and it's once in a lifetime opportunity for sure to be able to co-drive in that. And just to describe, you're in a tubular design, full custom vehicle that takes on this, and you're using the best of the best products, and it's amazing that you don't always make it, even no matter how much money you'll throw at it. So
definitely. Well, what I really wanted to talk about with this experience is, what'd you kind of take away from it from, the athlete perspective? Now, you've done snowcross racing, so you know what that's like. Did you learn anything new from this experience?
I'd say just being around a different environment. I mean, this is probably, 50 times bigger than I think a snowcross event would be. Just overall, I think the sheer population and the group of enthusiasts in the U.S. are surrounded by this. But I mean, as far as an athlete, I mean, this was a totally different measure of racing. I mean, we're going for 12 and 14 hours, and with snowcross, you're full sprint as soon as you get out of the gate. I mean, right. You're on it, and you're in it to win it right from the start. Where this here, you almost have to have that different mindset. Is okay, if I'm running at 6th or 7th or something like that position, or even say 65%. And that'll allow you to progress through the race. I mean, to be first, you at first must finish. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what you have to go into this race and realize is that, if you go 110%, you're going to break your car.
Right.
There's no question. So it's something you have to be very cautious of. And I found when snowcross, thinking about breaking the sled is probably the last thing on your mind.
Yeah.
So.
That's a good point.
That would be that would be the two big things for sure.
Yeah, it's fairly rare, I guess, watching a snowcross race or, I guess any sort of, ATV MX or Supercross. I mean, they have problems, they have mechanical issues, but definitely not like that. You're not worried about not finishing because of a mechanical issue. I mean, it happens, but we're talking like a few people, not half the pack, if not more than half the pack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was pretty crazy because I think I didn't look at the final numbers, but the people so out of 115 cars, there was only 25, 28 people that officially finished in the allotted time. So it's crazy to see actually the staggering numbers, and that's why it is one of the toughest races in North America.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why companies will invest into their racers, right? They're going to sponsor the racers with product or money or whatever, because when you roll across the finish line, you're 1 of 28, and you're like, hey, I got my BF Goodrich tires on. Couldn't have made it with anything else. That's good. Yeah. That's a big deal, right? I think BF Goodrich had a really good showing at that event too. But it's just another way of saying we tested it, and now I can go out and tell, Joe Schmo off-roader, like, this tire can survive King of the Hammers, so what else do you need to know about it?
Exactly, yeah, and that's part of our partnership with them too. And I mean, we basically find the toughest thing out there that's well known and put it through it. Like they also have a UTV class as well, and that's, I think, a touch bigger than the 4400 class. We partner with guys like the Markley Racing, Dan and Rick Markley, who run Razor Turbo in that. Hewitt Rowland from Nitro Circus, he runs our exhaust in that, and also Lauren Healy runs his Turbo S in that race as well. All of them have our exhaust and the different ones. We offer a couple different, either a sport, which is an oval design, or dual stack. I don't sound like an ad.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
But yeah, here's my plug-in. But anyway, yeah, so it just, again, back to your point though, it really does show that, yeah, here's the magnitude of the race, and here's where we tested. We're not just shooting you a line of whatever. This is proven material.
Yeah, and that's a big benefit, right? That's what you can sell as a racer. If you're going out and doing these tough races, you talk to companies that want to prove or position themselves as a top-notch performer or a tough product. So that's good stuff. Well, speaking of ads, so you did a mini ad there, but it was a good one. But I'm going to do other ads in a second here. So we're going to take a quick second, though, to thank the sponsors for this podcast. 2 questions I get continuously about this show and about sponsorship is, do I need my own website and do I need a resume? The answer is, in my opinion, yes to both, and that's why we partner with TopThePodium.com. Now, if you want to see an example of what a professional website and what a professional resume looks like, you got to check out TopThePodium.com. They did my website. The Sponsored Rider Club podcast website is sponsoredriderclubpodcast.com. That was created by Jeff Vanistall of TopThePodium.com. I think it's awesome. I get a lot of good feedback about it. And there's a number of other websites out there that Jeff has produced that are just phenomenal. So I think it's important in this world of social media where you have control of your content. That's what a website does. It gives you full control. We don't know what Facebook's going to do sometimes. We don't know what Instagram's going to do. We don't know what Twitter's going to do. So if we don't have that central location to direct people and house our content, there is some risk that we incur. So I strongly recommend getting a website, talking to TopThePodium.com. And then the resume, again, is massive. And if you want to stand out, get it done professionally. And honestly, it is one of the best ways to step up your game and present yourself in the best way possible. Safety is our overriding priority. I hear it all the time, but I have to ask myself, is it though? Is that the first thing we think of? Is that the first thing you think of? Over the past couple of years, we've seen the performance of production UTVs increase, somewhere around 350%. That means these machines give us a lot more opportunity to have fun and win races, but it also, unfortunately, gives us new opportunities to crash. And that's why we have partnered with Crash Addict Industries. The owner, Travis Pointer, became very accustomed to crashing early in his career. He saw it as inevitable, and he set out to make the process safer. With a passion for racing, welding, and engineering, Crash Addict Industries now produces full cage and other protection systems intentionally designed to protect you during an accident on the track. They also offer a line of human protection products through their vendors. Do this for me at this point. If you're racing with a stock cage right now, please go check out CrashAddict.com and at least just see what they have to offer. Even if you choose to go with a different company, please make safety your overriding priority.
What's up, everyone? This is Mike Pasquarella, founder of Desert Vets Racing. When the team goes racing, we always have our SolderWeld products with us. Keeping the cars in the fight is our number one concern. With SolderWeld, we can do that. SolderWeld is a leading company in the U.S. for aluminum repair. They specialize in radiator repair on the fly. If you're stuck in the middle of the trail or a race with a hole in your radiator, oil pan, or canister, or even an aluminum line, you can fix it right then and there in a matter of minutes with their AMSOIL aluminum repair rods and flux. It's the only complete and lasting fix in the off-road community. SolderWeld's new UTV off-road kits fit in every ride and are easy to access on the fly.
SolderWeld continues to make a huge positive impact on this industry. So I really encourage you, get in there now. Go to SolderWeld.us, check out their products, because this stuff is changing the game. Family race team. Those are the first words that come to mind when I think of Bold Racing. And the next one is actually axles. Bold Racing is a premier distributor of GSP XTV axles. And if that wasn't cool enough, they just came out with an entirely new axle called the Revolution axle. It is a hollow tube axle. It's really cool. If you head over to their website, gspxtv.com, or you can find out more at boldracingltd.com, you can find out how this new axle technology works. So they are saying to view this as a fuse for your drivetrain. So the hollow tube CV axle twist technology actually increases the strength and reliability of the axle, and it also reduces stress on the drivetrain. Plus, honestly, it's super cool looking, and if people know me, they know that I really like cool looking stuff. So they come in this really cool gold color. Check it out. It's absolutely revolutionary. All right, welcome back, everybody. We are now in Heat 2. That's where we're going to talk about sponsorship, tactics, and strategies, and we're actually going to kind of extend on the last conversation we had. So we covered in our live show social media, brand loyalty, a bunch of stuff, but we just didn't get it all. Like we had to do more. I mean, right after we ended that show, that's where you and I talked. We're like, it's not enough. We got to keep going. We got to have another conversation. That's why you're on the show right now. So let's catch up. Let's start with brand loyalty, and let's just say, like, what should we talk about today? What's on your mind about brand loyalty today?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think just to extend, like I said, to extend some of our conversation last time, and even just to give some of our guys right now that are tuning in that maybe have or haven't caught the last one, to recap, the reason we wanted to even talk about and key in on brand loyalty is just the fact that how much weight it holds in your profile as a rider. When I get dozens of sponsorship requests and stuff like that sometimes, and and guys that hop from brand to brand to brand, it dilutes your overall image as a rider because it gives you less credibility when you do that, because it shows me or another manufacturer of the same product line that you're just doing it just for the free product, and either you're not drinking the Kool-Aid of that brand, or B, you don't believe in it. So we want to know that you're willing to either invest in our brand, whether that's either in part of a discount we give you, or really pushing us through social media on that aspect. So through good and bad times, whether, if there's something like, the communication gets weak, or, maybe communication is really good, we want to make sure that, we establish a clear line of communication throughout that whole time. So I think, like I said, it just, through good and bad times, have a good line of communication. If there's something wrong with the product, we want to know about it. If there's something right, let us know what we're doing so we can keep doing that. It's all about, a bit of give and take.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is such a good topic because there's good examples of how it works. There's bad examples of how people have done it. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But, my big thing is, if you're with a brand and it's not the right fit, that doesn't mean, what we're not telling you is that you must stick with this brand for however long. But we are saying, make sure that, you're thinking about that. Are you bringing the right things to the table? Is that why the relationship is struggling? Is there something that's broken down with communication? Maybe you need to fix that. Just leaving the brand and switching to something else might be the answer, but maybe not. And let's say you do that. Let's say you're with the brand, you switched to the other one because the relationship wasn't great, and you find out the relationship's not great with that brand. All right, do you jump ship again and go to a different one, or do you now reflect and say, like, what can I do to better this situation? So that's what's always on my mind with the brand loyalty thing, is there's that balance of, like, you want to do the right thing for you and for your program. That might mean a long, healthy relationship with the sponsor, right? Or you might look at it and say, the best thing is for me to leave. How do I now do this in which, in a way that I retain my image, I retain their image, and, I don't become the person who just hops from brand to brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's tough on the outside looking in. I mean, I guess you can always do as much homework as you can, looking at the brand and making sure that it aligns with your profile or values, and obviously a product you want to represent. And then obviously once you get involved, maybe it's not what you thought. We've had that. I mean, I'm not going to lie. We're not perfect. We've had people we've moved on from, but in a professional way, we will still communicate with. Say if there's somebody that, for example, here's just going to take a perfect example. We make an exhaust can, and if somebody wants a full exhaust, we'll have the discussion. I've had this discussion. So, to be honest, let's be real for a minute. We're probably not the right fit, and maybe suggest another partnership for you. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know that'll come back and pay us dividends full circle. I'm not worried about boosting another brand or something like that. I think there's enough, there's a big enough pond we can all get along kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think aligning it that way definitely would make sense. So if that would more or less be covering the topic if the product itself doesn't cover the full extent what you're looking for, and you have your mind set on something else.
Yeah, that's a very good point. One thing I'm curious about, and I don't think there is an answer, but I'll ask you anyways just to see where your head's at. Do you think there's a cutoff? Like, let's say someone comes to you and they've changed one, let's just say it's exhaust, right? They've changed one exhaust brand in the past 6 months, all right? Maybe it's a year. They've changed once. Do you talk to them? Or let's say that someone else comes to you with that they changed twice, and then someone else is 3 times. Like, is there a point where you just say, look, I don't even think we should talk? And I mean, is there a cutoff?
I think there would be for sure. And I think probably a lot of guys that either have spoke with me through, because we get sponsorship requests to our info at MBRP Power Sports, and then they get forwarded to me. Mm-hmm. So then I either review them. So what I'll do is, if guys that have spoken to me, you'll notice that I don't have just a straight platform that I'll just send you and fill out this document kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll kind of get a bit of a judgment on what you send for content, either ask for more, and then I'll build something specifically to that person. So to your point, I would really want to know why. I mean, what's caused you to do it 3 and 4 times? I mean, is it just because those particular brands didn't do the research that maybe another brand has, and it's causing your sled to malfunction? Are you not? But I would also question it too, that do the other brands know this information that you're telling me? Because that would make me think that, okay, if they don't know that, part of your relationship is supposed to be, not only promote them, but give them honest feedback. Hey, it's great. No, it sucks. Like, we want to know regardless. And that's what this relationship's based on. If you can't do that, but you're not running their product, there's a bit of a missing link there. So I believe that, yes, there would be a cutoff. It could even be 2. Right. It could be 2, it could be 6. So yeah, there's definitely a cutoff. Say it's 3. Yeah. And if it's based on these couple factors that, you're not giving them the other feedback and you're not happy the way this product performs, I think you're a bit short-sighted, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a good question, though, that people can ask themselves. Have I communicated my concerns with the sponsor? If the answer is no, then you're not ready to move on. You know what I mean? That might be your checklist. Have I at least shared my concerns? Let's say you did, and they said, but I don't care. I don't like you anyways. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you've at least asked the question, and you've communicated your concern, and it is what it is. And like you said, they're not every relationship is just going to be fantastic. There's plenty of these things that don't work out. But you got to take some accountability, I think, for your role in it, and you got to have that story prepared. It's just like a job interview, right? If you show up to a job interview and you've got 5 different jobs and your longest tenure at each one is 8 months. Okay, well, it happens. Okay, maybe there's good justification. I don't know, but you got to have that story because they're going to ask it. You got to be prepped for it.
No, absolutely.
Now, you might not have a quote-unquote, a lot of people have racing resumes. You might not have a resume that says, here's all the sponsors I've worked with in the past. But guess what? Industry's pretty small overall. Everybody knows one another. All the brands, even the competing brands, like hang out together. Like everybody knows everybody. So
oh yeah,
like you just know.
Yeah.
And when people change brands, especially if you're in the limelight, people notice, and they make a big deal out of it.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure, yeah, and that's one great point too. Like we're all, I get back to my first point even, we're all a big group of enthusiasts. We talk, we eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. So yeah, it's easy for your name to get out there in a good or not so good way. So make sure things stay consistent.
Yeah, I actually just thought of something too, and we've talked about in the show how these, the brand managers, the marketing managers, the creative directors, that they communicate, or they all know each other, or they'll even switch sometimes they'll switch companies and have the same job at a different company, so they keep that knowledge with them. But I just was reminded of a time when I met some sales reps for my old company that I used to work for, and I honestly thought that sales reps from one company don't talk to sales reps from the other company. Like that just does. I thought that there was some invisible wall that separated them. And I saw a couple of sales reps from my company, and they're just like chilling out with a competitor company. And I'm like, you guys just talk? Oh yeah, they're sharing all sorts of stories about in this case it was med device. They're talking about like, oh yeah, this doctor is very difficult to work with, or like this one's amazing to work with, and like they share those stories. So guess what? If you're difficult to work with as well, that's gonna be shared. It's gonna happen.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, that's a great point for sure. It's not it's a very tight knit group. Yeah, we all definitely all chat. So there's no going around that for sure.
Right. Now that's the doom and gloom side. The positive side is that if you are good to work with and you do a good job, people do the same thing. They share that. And then all of a sudden, you find out more people reaching out to you. Hey, I heard, I was talking to Jared over at MBRP the other day. He said that you might be someone I need to talk to. So here I am. So that happens too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah, and that's something we've used his name quite often, Sean Endel. Mm-hmm. I've done that with him for Team LTD, or Matt Deutsch, which is also known as Muskoka Freerider. I've sent him his name out there as well. Guys that build a proper profile on social media with consistent good content generally they generally stick out. So you have no problem passing them along, and ultimately accelerates their growth. So I believe that probably pushes us into the next couple points here.
Exactly. It's a perfect segue because we want to talk more about social media. And I will tell you, Jared, you probably haven't seen this, but I did a show that I released today. So today is March 12th, 2019 when we're recording this. I just released a show today that was about the social media apocalypse. Yeah, it's interesting. But I basically started saying, what if social media no longer existed, or if it was so different that you couldn't use it the way you're used to. And I got this because I listened to this, or I read this article that was based off of a tweet or something that Mark Zuckerberg said about where Facebook and Instagram is heading. And he basically said, like, yeah, I think everything's going to get way more private. I imagine Facebook and Instagram looking more like WhatsApp and Messenger in the future. So everybody was freaking out, like, what does that mean? So I joined the bandwagon of freak out people and did a podcast about it. But Either way.
Nice. It's funny. I actually saw that on my phone notification before we got on. I'm like, oh, I totally know this is going to come up. I'll give my 2 cents on it, I'm sure, throughout here.
Yeah, that's good. Well, either way, we wanted to talk about social media more. How do you build your brand on social media? How do you add depth to your post? Right now, social media is still here, so we don't have to worry about the apocalypse today. But I don't know. What's your thoughts on this topic?
Well, social media for me, and being, I am constantly reminded every Sunday on my phone how much screen time I spend on social media, and it's quite sickening actually. But love those little Apple plugs. But anyway, I spend a lot of time on social media regardless. So what I've kind of formed over the past 3-4 years that I've really been involved in this is that social media, it's almost like a love-hate for me, because all you see is what people want you to see, is essentially a highlight reel of people's lives and profiles and stuff too. So I really want to see what, the being kind of bring some authenticity into it. I think building your brand is people really want to know like who you are, not just, because there's so much content out there, like, whether it's girls or cool sled pictures or big houses or cars or whatever. People, I think, are almost starting to get sick of seeing the final product. People want to see the steps along the way of what it took to get there. Like I know that's kind of what I look at, because obviously everybody wants to be, quote unquote successful, but like, to take those steps to get there, like what is the meat and potatoes of this process? And I know this is obviously the whole vision of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, is giving us the tools to then be successful like these other guys. So to really tie this all together, tell us a story about, in the post too, rather than just posting maybe just one, like say Wheelie Wednesday and that'll be it. Like you'll notice on some of our posts that probably in every 5th or 8th post, I'll do like a couple of paragraphs below the caption to really kind of give you the picture behind the scenes and where we've, either where we've come from or who's on our team involving into the process of getting there. Cause it's not just our exhaust. It's all the people that were involved in getting here. It's all of our design team. It's all, everything from administration to organizing our dealers and distributors. But it's all about telling the story. So that's what I would really get into. Talk about your passion for snowmobiling. Talk about why you've chosen the sled. Take a picture of any Skidoo, power sports vehicle, whatever you're looking for sponsorship on, and tell us what you love about it. Tell us what your build plans are with it. Tell us, maybe where you ride on the weekend. What's your favorite spot? And give us some insight. I think really building up more transparency in social media nowadays is a huge win for anybody, rather than just kind of posting a cool forward caption. I think that's where the direction of social media is going.
Yeah, it's very interesting. If you go back in time, even a year, 2 years, the story's different, and social media changes so quickly. You got to adapt to it, because there's a lot of things that, especially when Instagram was first really getting popular, like if you were picture perfect, everything locked in and had the most witty saying in your, like you said, 4 to 8 word post, you know what I mean? You were ignored. But then, yeah, like you said, everybody's like, okay, yeah, I've seen this. Well, for me, it's the stuff that you're talking about, like trucks and snowmobiles and whatnot. But like, for everybody else, you've seen the same picture to an extent 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times. I don't know. And you're like, I don't know. I don't even know if it's worth me, double tapping this thing. I don't even know if it's worth me liking it or sharing it anymore, because I've already seen it. So, but I don't know behind the scenes. What it kind of reminds me of? If you look back to television programs, like when they first came out, I'm thinking of like Leave It to Beaver. It's like the quintessential American family. Everything's perfect, And then things moved into this like kind of darker sitcom thing that was like, no, guess what? The world has real problems. I think there's a little bit of that evolution that's happening right now for us. Like, I don't know. It's been pretty interesting to watch. I wish I could figure it out, and then I would definitely tell everybody else more about it. But I think we got to keep paying attention to that stuff.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that's definitely what it is. I mean, what are we being projected, and what's reality? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of go the same thing. Reflect that on yourself almost, and seeing what content am I putting out there, and what story am I trying to tell, and to go kind of as a parallel to that, and truly stories. Use your Instagram story as like just raw footage, mm-hmm. even and little quick shots of you working on your machine in the garage, or maybe a package that shows up at your door. I see a lot of our guys do this too, and tag your sponsor or tag somebody like that. I mean, I love watching that stuff because it's unedited. Mm-hmm. It's almost in real time within 24 hours, mm-hmm. and it's really kind of cool that way to give you an insight to what's going on. To go into that further, I've been really pushing on Instagram TV now. I don't know if you've kind of pushed in a little bit to that, but I'm actually really starting to like that platform, and I see they just started working with doing previews on your feed. So when you post it, it'll post a minute worth of that video on your feed. Mm-hmm. So it works great that way. But I did some experimenting with it, do something super edited. It's kind of like it gets okay, depending how you do it. And then if you do something raw, like I did a video with Hubert at King of the Hammers, and I just said, just turn the camera on, said, obviously, you just finished the race. Tell us a bit about it. Obviously, your razor is not stock at all, to give us a bit of insight to it, and, what it took to build it and stuff too. So just really try and build that story, and, just to show people who you are, who your company is, and really kind of give them that insight.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Instagram TV, because that's one platform that I haven't experimented with personally yet. Mm-hmm. I got into Facebook Live, and I think I've done like 25, 26 live shows. I need to really look at IGTV and see if, from my standpoint, what I pay attention to for some of these is, like, my main platform is still podcast. The audio content is what I really focus on. The live is a supplement, and that's the way my strategy has been set up. Well, I take mm-hmm. every live show, I download the audio, release it so that people have access to it. I wonder if I can do the same for IGTV. If I can figure that out, then I mm-hmm. can probably justify doing some IGTV stuff too. But
the Instagram TV video, I think they have a 10-minute window cap. That's okay. That's all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
But so I guess their idea behind it is too. I mean, I don't know about other listeners and stuff, but personally for me, I don't even watch TV on my at home anymore. Like, it's either Netflix or it's like I'm staring at my phone. So Instagram, I think, is doing it right. I think it's just going to get a bit of time for users to warm up to something like this, to getting used to watching longer content on your phone. But the reality is everybody's eyeballs are on their phone anyway. So that's obviously why everything from advertising, or you're trying to, expand your bandwidth on your phone. And that's kind of what Instagram's target was for this.
Yeah, definitely. I know that in my home, we don't have cable anymore. We've got, Netflix, and I think we got something else too. But the real stuff that you really have access to now is all this very customizable, watch it whenever you want, like a YouTube, like, social media, like a Netflix. And it's changed the dynamics of the household, or just the way humans interact quite a bit too, because I know my kids sometimes, they're like, they can't decide on if they want to watch like a little show or something, so they both end up watching something separate, and it's, at first you're like, man, this kind of stinks, we should be together, but they're super happy, like, and they're still playing with each other and still doing all this good stuff, and like, but this, I don't know, it's interesting, and I really enjoy where media is heading. The challenge, though, that I have, similar to what you said before, it's like this love-hate relationship with the social part of it, because mm-hmm. For me, what I worry about is like, what's the what's the impact that social media is going to have on humans in like 10, 15 years, in terms of like, people get so tied into like how many, likes or shares or whatever they get.
Mm-hmm.
And you get so obsessed with that, like you start deriving your value from it to an extent. Like, yeah, that's more eyeballs. You do have some value tied to more followers and things like that, but personal value, I think people get a little depressed at times. So.
Oh yeah, I would totally be with you on that one for sure too. I mean, I think that is I think it's probably a real issue. You know, I'm thinking it's super off topic, but I mean, take it even on a business side. Now I'll tie it into actually how I look at likes and comments and everything too, and really how I look after social media when I'm doing sponsorships or putting a gauge on what I can offer. So say if you have 10,000 followers, or I'm comparing you to somebody who's 100,000 followers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, the 100,000 followers is more. Let's say they even have more likes, but if it ties to our brand, great. Or even if he or she is a motorsports enthusiast, I would 9 times out of 10 probably pick the 10,000 follower a lot more, because most of that 100,000 followers, let's say with really doing your homework, they're probably they're probably not very engaged with it or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. More talking maybe, let's say
the engagement percentage is lower.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you want to make sure, again, it's consistency. Then if, the number of likes, or even not even number of likes, just say in the comments, and people are like, oh, wow, where are you riding this weekend? Or I love the sled. What do you think of the new Arctic hat? Or if they're really asking things like that, that is what I go after versus just the overall sheer amount of likes to kind of tie that in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's for me though, and I don't know if anybody else is dealing with this right now, but the way I look at social media is every time if I post something that I think is going to do well and it does, and I'm like, okay, this is a challenge. What am I going to do different next time? That's the way I try to look at it versus. Early on, I had a hard time saying like, oh, well, I am just a horrible, uncreative, waste of life because something got 10% less likes than I thought it was gonna. And I had to shift that mindset. And, if anybody else is struggling with that, like shift it now, like make that change. 'Cause it feels so much better.
The world is not over. It's still spinning. You're going to be fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something like, I don't know, maybe I am getting a little off topic now, but that's something that I think the next generation is really going to have to think about too. How they're going to interact with humans again if something goes wrong with their social media. What is it?
Definitely.
But yeah, well, hey, that was good stuff on social media. I felt like we answered a couple of questions that we set out to. How do you build a brand? How do you add depth to your post? I mean, we talked about transparency. We talked about Instagram story, IGTV. We talked about, every 5th to 8th post having some paragraphs, things like that. So I feel like we got that. But now I want to move on and cover some things in the main event. Now, the main event is different from the last time you were on the show. Now, the main event is focused on the lightning round. But some of the questions were carryovers, so there might be a repeat in here.
Yeah, no worries.
But for you, if you could sponsor anyone in the world, that means it could be anyone. It doesn't have to be a motorsports person. Who would you choose, and why would you choose them?
Okay, I put some thought into this too, and you know what? I think it probably ties in with a few of our points previously. Mm-hmm. A couple guys, and it all comes back to the engagement. I think one of the first guys that popped into my head with this is BJ Baldwin. Mm-hmm. I think that guy is I definitely look up to that guy for sure. And the best part about him, he is authentic. You can tell that guy says who he is. He is not trying to kind of curve and adapt to somebody, a different character, for social media. That's the perception I get. That's who he is. He's authentic. This is who he is. And it's very, you're not going to find him any different if you see him out on the street or anything like that. So that's kind of something that I would, main reason, just being authentic. He's got a big following, and he's got a very strong, character, I guess you could say too. Like, that's who he is.
Yeah, I completely agree. And BJ Baldwin that's come up on the show a lot of times when I ask about someone to like emulate or, who's really good at this stuff, he comes up quite a bit. So I get it. He's one of the people that when I first started following like the desert racing, he was the first name that I knew. Like I recognized his name, his vehicle before anybody else. And there's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He does a very good job of portraying it through social media as well. Did have another guy, can't seem to think of his name, but like even just in terms of good engagement, I'm sure people have seen him. Axel Hodges coming through social media as well. I mean, the kid has got unbelievable talent for sure. But I think back to BJ Baldwin, I think he does a lot more, again, those depth posts and everything, and really kind of portrays his personality through social media. So that's probably somebody that I would definitely team up with.
Yeah. Good deal. If you could only use one social media platform, which one would you choose and why?
I believe Instagram. I think, well, even just not only from a work perspective, but I think even just personally too. I find with Facebook more often than not, I find this, just to be honest, there's a lot of people that I find air their dirty laundry there. And that's not something that people want to see. People go shift to Instagram, number one, to probably be entertained, and two, likely to, check out cool brands or something like that, or people they're obviously engaged with, and then three, more than likely to buy something. So, which obviously they work through their website and stuff like that. But yeah, I think Instagram, would be an easy choice. Why I would use that platform. I haven't really got into the, Twitter side of things. Snapchat, I mean, I think that's more of a personal thing that a lot of people use too. Instagram with Instagram stories and stuff like that, that's kind of essentially what, Instagram's adapted. So I wouldn't see any reason to choose Snapchat over that. So yeah, Instagram is definitely my go-to.
Have you used TikTok? It used to be called Musical.ly. Have you even seen that platform? It's really targeted at a younger generation, but it's interesting. It's
I actually can't say I have.
So I get, it was for like months, I got these ads just plastered towards me on Instagram for TikTok. I'm like, okay, I wonder if I actually download it, will the ads stop? Like, can I get away from it? But I don't know how to describe it. Like, people do lip syncing and, their own little parodies and comedy. It's, at least the ones that I saw, I haven't spent a ton of time with it yet, but it's almost like Instagram stories, but it does have the engagement you can see right on there. I don't know. It's interesting. I'd be curious to see, especially it's really targeted at the younger generation. I'd be curious to see if there's any younger riders and racers that listen to this show, if they've actually tried, using that platform. Because one thing, like Snapchat doesn't give you any statistics. At least I don't think so. I tried it a couple years back, but it doesn't give you like a good read on what your engagement is. But that Musical.ly does, or sorry, I think they call it TikTok now, but the TikTok does. So it could add value for some of these younger racers that are, trying to, or maybe they've already engaged an audience and they're trying to, prove that they can reach that audience to a sponsor. But either way, it might be worth it.
I think the Snapchat would definitely be just more of a personal thing. I think it's probably just, it's essentially just entertainment. I don't know how much value it would hold, even in comparison to Instagram. So that Instagram is definitely the go-to for sure.
Yep. Who's your biggest supporter?
Just in general, you think, or
yeah. Who do you think has been your number one fan?
Personally, or as a brand?
Can I say both?
Oh boy. Yeah, really getting to go now. That's a good question. You know what? I mean, I have to give it, like, we have a ton of great partners in the field. I think it would be hard for me to to pinpoint one. I mean, a lot of them have been really good to work with. I think if that's the direction we're going, I mean, yeah, I don't know if I could pick one in the field.
All right, you get a pass on that. You get a pass.
Okay, I get a pass on that. Well, I think I'd be wrong to say if I didn't shout out my girlfriend for probably my personal biggest supporter. I mean, you know, I know she does it with a smile and everything from racing and you know, I've been traveling for all these shows and events and stuff like that. It's great to always have her support, you know, to do things like this and do what I love. So it's definitely something I enjoy, and it's good to have her support on that too.
Yeah, it's hard to properly estimate how much support you need from, you know, friends, family, significant others, you know, but especially significant others when you're trying to do something, you know, especially when you get these racers, like a lot of people have daytime jobs, you know, they're trying to race on weekends or trying to race at night, and they're always working on their stuff. You need a lot of support to make that happen. Even just for me doing this podcast, like, you know, I mean, I try to do everything when the kids are sleeping and when my wife's sleeping, but it's not possible. And, you know, she ends up taking on extra work as a result, but yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, no, if you definitely have a good partner, you know, girlfriend, wife in life, it's, makes it, that much easier to kind of do the things that you love too. So it's, you know, it's awesome. I think back when we talked last time, I mean, the fall season's really busy for me. I got, you know, 5 weeks of show travel and, you know, I'm home maybe a few days in between that. So to have that big support like that's definitely a huge blessing.
Definitely. Well, we're at the finish line here, and you've been here. This is your 4th time finishing the end of a show. That means we need to wrap things up. What do you think is a really important lesson, the one thing that our audience needs to take away from this conversation?
Cool. Well, I think, guys, appreciate you guys sticking with us all the way to the end here too. I think we touched on a lot of valuable points throughout this podcast, and I think, you know, others along the way. I'm very happy to be on the podcast for the 4th episode too. I've always loved trying to help as many people out as I can. So as some takeaways for this episode, you know, brand loyalty, as we touched on, that's something that's huge. Make sure your image stays consistent. And the second thing would be, tell us your story through your social media and be transparent that way. Give us the small seeds along the way to help us paint the big picture of who you are and give us a really good idea, you know? So don't be afraid to kind of, you know, go in depth on that and tell us the story.
No, that's good stuff. Jared, what's the best way for people listening to connect with you?
Give me a shout out on social media. Like, you can shoot me a message on Instagram, just at Jared Heshka, or at MBRP Power Sports on Instagram as well. That's definitely something I'm most up to speed on. Facebook, I'll take a little bit longer to get back to you, just because trying to cover all the platforms gets a bit time consuming. But I will try my best to get back to you with questions or comments or anything I can do to help.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us again. 4th time. But the problem that I have with you being on 4 times is there's a little bit of a competition going out there. And now I'm going to have to tell Pleasant Cook, a.k.a. 4x4 Barbie, that someone else has been on the show 4 times. So she's going to probably want to come on for a 5th time, and then, you know how it goes. So
yeah, there we go.
The competition is definitely out there. But yeah, I appreciate you doing this. It's been a lot of fun. It's always good catching up. But I'm going to leave it at this. Have fun and ride safe. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by AMSOIL. Make sure you follow us on social media. Pay specific attention to our Facebook page. That's where we do our live shows. To get some insider access to upcoming guests, go ahead and check out the sponsored Rider Club on Facebook. A special thanks goes out to the sponsors of this show: AMSOIL, SolderWeld, Bold Racing, TopThePodium.com, and Crash Addict Industries. And I also want to shout out some of our other partners: GSP XTV, MBRP, HMK USA, and Stud Boy Traction. I look forward to serving you again next week. Until then, have fun and ride safe.